I'm sitting in this GLE AMG. It's beautiful red. It's got some cool features. And I just go, I could hop over to a YouTube video, but I really want to know, what would Nick do? Right? So WWND, first off, sitting there at that steering wheel, and I've got my Versatile, and I'm working, and I'm cussing. I can't stop cussing because the sensitivity level on that steering wheel where that metal button, everything's metal right there, right? And so everything in there that you're cleaning, you got this little space where you got about a quarter inch. So what would Nick do? Keep cussing or actually use a
What was
brush?
happening? What was happening, and were the buttons turning things on?
Yeah, everything was going on and off. The whole
Why?
screen's going back and
Where was the
forth.
key?
Sitting there at the where
Yeah,
it's supposed to.
that's a simple fix. Take the key out of the car.
Oh, come on, that's too easy.
Yeah. So first of all, I think the Versatile is probably a tough one to use because you have such tight spaces on those Mercedes steering wheels now, and mini steering wheels, not just Mercedes. So I'm probably workaholic, because that area is getting tighter and tighter. There's more and more, like you said. A brush is pretty helpful in that world right there. I know some guys, if you like air, if you got air sitting there, you can blow some air in there. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, as good as the Versatile is, and as good as it is on the sensitive areas, one of the problems with the Versatile with the modern steering wheel is some of those tight areas are going to be pretty tough to work around.
Oh, very much. I mean, even with the brush, you could still start
Sure.
hitting some stuff. I didn't, at least I'm somebody. I don't know if you're somebody that does this. Like when things start going kind of like awkward at the screen, I start going, crap. Are they thinking
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going to be
no.
like
My big thing
digging
is I
through
just look for
stuff?
car
Like,
wash. I look for car wash mode. So that's my move now. I'll just get into the screen and see if I can find a car wash mode and call it a day. But there's a lot of these keys you can't have anywhere near the car now. I mean, you really got to like take them out, get them some form of distance away from the car because it's just going to go haywire. And there's just that's not manufacturer specific. It's just happening with all of them. I mean, the keys, the sensitivity, it wants to turn everything on. If the key is near there, if you touch anything, it starts turning things on. So I'm either going into the menu trying to find a car wash, setting, or I'm just getting the key as far away from the car as I can.
I did see that car wash mode, but I didn't I didn't know what it was. I should have Googled it, right? I should have looked into it, but was thinking, what would Nick do?
Well,
Like,
here's the deal.
you
The
know,
one thing Nick would do is probably have somebody else detailing that car. If you're asking what Nick would do, it'd be like, hey, somebody else needs to let's tag someone else in
well,
here.
I woke up
Yeah,
to a text message.
yeah, I've been there.
So your boy had to go be the one to do it.
I hear you. I know that feeling. I
Not
know
the
that
way my
feeling.
Sunday morning was designed, but there I am, cussing at the steering wheel while it goes crazy, not
Yeah.
pressing the car wash mode. Good to know. I'll press that next time. But had a weird film only on the inside driver's windshield. Right? Next point of what would Nick do? Here I am cleaning the glass, and I go, what is this? Nothing else, no other part of glass anywhere had some film. Only on the driver's side interior window.
Did it have a heads up display? That where you can see the speed. Was there like a little hump on the?
I don't remember that.
So one of the things that we're seeing, it could be a variety of things. When you guys see this, you see these isolated parts of like a windshield. First of all, if there's never anybody in the passenger seat, it could be coming from something that the driver's doing, vape, whatever, it can kind of migrate to one part of the windshield. What else we would see is sometimes there's some gas that comes out of that heads up display that's not coming out on the other side of the windshield. And so it's off gassing in a different way in that specific area. But perfect use of anytime, guys, I see film, let's go over the process again. And I don't care whose glass cleaner you use. We have a great glass cleaner. Just use Revive in a towel get the film off, go back with your glass cleaner, hyperCLEAN glass cleaner, and just do the final little touches. Your life's gonna be so much easier. Like, and by the way, you're not trying to like scrub it till it foams. Just use the surfactants from Revive, wipe the area down, buff it off, and then come back with your glass cleaner. Remember, you and I had that really gnarly FJ Cruiser that had the air freshener that had like painted, the inside of the windshield. We used Revive. We didn't even have to think about it. I mean, it was so easy to finish that glass, and it was pretty beat up. I mean, it looked like a smoker's car from that air freshener.
So, yep, I had that trick in my bag, no problem. But when it came to the outside cleaning of the glass and that big, giant roof up top,
Yep.
well, I had to sit there and question, do I open the door? Do I step on the thing? The
Oh, you didn't have a ladder?
little step. I didn't have a ladder with me. Do I step on my rinseless bucket? Do I get on the wheel? What would Nick do?
Yeah, it's pretty simple for me. I'm gonna
Bring a
try.
ladder. I get it, but
No,
I'm not
no, no,
that
no,
guy,
no. The ladder's not there. It's all good. We got some solutions. I would couple moves. Sometimes the running boards are pretty helpful these days. Although we did a Maybach SUV, a few of them here recently, boy, those sit low to the ground to have, you know, uh, the massive running boards that those have is so
Are,
crazy to
are
me.
you the take your shoe off guy to get on the running board?
No, I just put a towel down. Like if I have to get on the sill, the actual door sill to get something, just put a towel under my shoe and call it a day. One of the things, if you're in a shop setting, if you're going to be getting in and out of the car, you can just take old pieces of PPF and just put it on the sill, and it'll just protect it for the time it's in your shop. But yeah, no, for me, it's just put a towel down if I gotta climb in. You got to get it done. Sometimes you left the wrong tools at home or in your shop, and it wasn't with you. And I think it's also important to say, guys, we all know that things aren't perfect, right? So just find a little workaround. Like you said, you could have flipped your bucket over, dumped the rinseless out, gone to flip that over. That would have worked. There's times you can step on truck tires. We've all done that. So yeah, I'm kind of a fan of whatever gets the job done.
Yeah, me too. That's what I say. Get the job done, not necessarily thinking of it as a workaround, but you're right. I guess it does kind of work around the situation to get the job done. And we're going to get into some of these things that we're just hitting them real topical because there's questions that people have asked us that we're going to get into that they kind of go into these moments of while I'm working on this car, thinking, what would I do here? What should we do here? Because there's so many people that when we're cleaning cars, like I think I really do. I really think so many of us get a little tunnel focused and go, our process should just be so dialed, right? It should be so targeted that there's no variation. And then you get into these moments where you go, wait a minute, I need some variance here. I need some variance because I can't just do the same things I've always normally done. I like for these moments, right? Like stepping on something. I love that with the PPF. I should have brought some PPF with me, right? No,
Yeah,
but
I should have brought some PPF I didn't have.
putting a towel down, right? Like these things we're going to get into when some people ask us some questions, and we'll get into that here in a second. And the last one came to wheels, right? And if you're doing a rinseless or a waterless style wash, and these wheels hadn't been cleaned in a bit, I sent you a picture, jokingly
Yeah,
said, "Don't judge my barrels."
yeah,
Right? The barrels weren't clean. Those faces were pretty bad, but they were specific matte black that anybody that does rinseless or waterless, we know that becomes a tough moment. I sent a picture of me. I mean, that towel had so much black on it.
yeah,
Normally, you get into those moments if you don't wear gloves, your
yeah,
fingers are then covered in that black soot.
yeah,
What is your go-to right now? Don't give away your real deep secret,
yeah.
but we'll talk about that in a moment. But just the cleaning of matte black when we're doing a rinseless or waterless style wash.
Yeah, it's pretty tough because, you and I have talked about this a lot over the years that bottom line, I think if you're going to go and do that and you're not going to pressure wash wheels, or, let's even a hose would have been helpful, right? Like in a real way, and some real heavy TRX and Fuego was needed to really bring those back to full health, right? I mean, by what I saw from the picture, I've always told guys, the best use of a tint keg is the waterless and rinseless wash, process. It gives you some PSI. It allows you to clean
Could
up
have
those
used it.
wheels. But here's the thing. You also have to realize that if you're doing it in place in someone's garage, you need to clean up after yourself because you're going to create a problem. I don't know that I fully believe in rinseless and waterless and no pressure at all for a daily driver as that being your sole level to maintain it, right? Because I've always said this, it's going to be hard to get your wheel wells to the level of a pressure washer and TRX and those types of things. It's going to be hard to get the barrels the way you want. So there is a little bit of a workaround. We've seen these new microfiber, barrel brushes, or like a an easy detail brush. You can take and really wet it down with your rinseless formula and put a towel on the end of those things and get into the barrel and try to clean them up. But you've kind of said it. I mean, it's going to be a pretty laborious process if you don't have a tint keg or a pressure washer or at least a hose and some harsher chemicals that can start to break down that grime. But now it's about managing what that customer or you, the user, right? So we see a lot of people who are not rinseless and waterless fans who live in winter weather. And so they go, well, I just kind of let my car go during the winter, my daily driver. If I get lucky and there's a break in the weather and it goes, I don't know that that's the best thing to do either. You can use rinseless and waterless to your benefit, but this is all about expectation, you, the user, on your own car or what you're doing with a customer. We use rinseless and waterless and have been for 15 years on car collections. Much different world, right? Much different world than a daily driver. So I just think that everybody needs to kind of have this conversation appropriately, which is a lot to ask in the detail space, as you know.
Why you got to take that jab, Nick?
You
Huh?
know,
Why you got to
I
take
mean,
a
no,
jab at
it's not.
me?
Wasn't a
Huh?
jab. It was not a jab. It was not a jab. It's just we all know that people get out
Just
over their
common sense,
skis.
huh? Just common
I
sense.
mean, it's just like, come on, we need to say it. People act like everything's the next thing. But yeah, I mean, it's still a great option.
So this customer, I actually did not leave the vehicle inside of the garage. Normally, we would. Normally, this would be some of those questions back and forth about what would you do leaving it in the garage if you were going to do rinseless, or leaving it in the garage only for waterless. Because let's all kind of think for a second. I'm using rinseless. There's a lot of water that falls to the ground. That's
Yes.
then inside of this customer's garage. So I was working on something, right? Our rinseless, what we're working heavy on, it's at the end, and I wanted to work on it on this vehicle, use it. So I pulled the vehicle outside, put it out into some shade underneath a tree. That way I could make sure that I didn't get a bunch of water, or even to your point, under this moment, a bunch of that brake dust as I go and take a really wet towel into that face of the wheel. What's going to happen? I'm going to drip a lot of, not only coming from my towel, but then that dust that came, from the wheel. Too much water is going to make that just flow all onto that part of
Yep.
the customer's garage. Which no.
Yeah, no, look, and if you do that, you got to have some trash towels where you go back and you wipe up the customer's garage, take some rinseless and waterless formula, spray it down. You know, it's a lot of stuff we don't talk about. If it's your own garage and you take pride in your own garage and you're doing something inside there, like you gotta be smart enough, in my opinion, to go, hey, I'm going to create a little bit of a mess here. If I create the mess, then I just got to clean it up, right? You don't have to be mad that you created the mess. You just got to clean the mess up. And I understand. And again, this is kind of what I meant by, we don't really have a good topic of conversation here when it comes to rinseless and waterless, because we want to act like it's the perfect solution. It's just a solution. and you got to work around things, and you got to understand the pros and the cons. And I think you're going to end up doing a lot of cleaning up that a lot of people probably skip over. But you and I both know, like you said, it can get pretty grimy around that car, especially on a dirty car, dirty wheels. You might want to go ahead and think about having some cheap towels that you're ready to throw away that are just your wipe up towels.
So the interesting part about the whole time that I was there was when I got the phone call from the customer who happened to be at church, who didn't have the Range Rover there that I thought I was going to be cleaning. So that's why I'm cleaning the GLE. And his Range Rover wasn't able to start sitting in the church parking lot trying to come home. So I got to throw everything back in the GLE, put my stuff back all together, and then start to go pick him up so that he could come back home. And then suddenly the key fob started working, and the Rover started again. He said he called the Rover his salesman, right? He's a special guy if the salesman answers the phone on a Sunday morning.
Yes.
So, but apparently they have an issue. You probably know about it, which is why I wanted to ask, what happens inside of those fobs? What can we do if it happens to us?
There's usually a hard start. I'm guessing they walked him through how to hard start it. Sometimes there could be a metal key buried in a place that you insert a metal key. Sometimes you got to like touch it to this different spot in the car, manufacturer to manufacturer. There's all kinds of ways to hard start a car, right? And because they know these fobs could have problems. And at the end of the day, you just kind of have to be okay with that. And usually it's in an owner's manual. You can pull those owner's manuals up, or just hit Google, hey, my 2025 Range Rover is having trouble with the key fob. They'll run you through a hard start type of sequence. But yeah, again, we kind of messed with something that worked. The key worked fine. Now we're in this technological advancement with the fobs, and now stuff on the phone where you're using your phone. We run into this quite a bit. And I always tell people, it's like they're always I really haven't come across one. So I should say in all cases, there's usually a way to hard start. But we've had issues with Lamborghini Urus, with the battery system on that. And there's no real way to get that thing started. So you got to work through Lamborghini. I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. But yeah, you usually have a hard start feature that you can walk yourself through.
Well, so he made it home and walked over to where I was out, washing the GLE, and he made an interesting comment. He goes, using water now, huh? You got to realize how long I've been cleaning his cars.
Yeah.
How long we've been doing them just there in his garage. Yeah. And he was a little confused that we were now, quote unquote, using water because I had this bucket that I was dripping down. And so I had to explain to him. I said, there's this different style of washing. So some people just feel like they need to have this bucket and they go and dip it. And instead of the way that he's always seen us waterless wash his car. That moment just was interesting for me, right? Because he was confused. He was a little confused on why suddenly I changed up the way I did it. But we'll get to the waterless, rinseless discussion whenever we do release rinseless and what the benefit of rinseless and why we've done it the way we've done it. What do you think? How long do you think it took me to wash and detail that GLE?
Did you fully detail the barrels?
You saw the barrels. I've already said, don't judge me by my barrels. So, of course, the answer is no.
I would say 35 minutes. If the wheels needed to be detailed out, that would have been probably close to an hour. That would have been my take.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm.
So what, somewhere like an hour and
a half? But the question we get asked so much isn't about that. It's really, how long does it take to coat a car?
Yeah.
That is the more common question. I know a lot of people want to know, how much do I charge for something like that maintenance style, quick type of detail on a Sunday where I was already having to put things in and out and back and forth. It did take me longer. Plus, I was trying to enjoy my Sunday
Yeah,
morning,
I hear
right?
you. You weren't in a hurry.
That's church for me, right? So he did his church, I was doing my church, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
Not in a hurry to go, but the drives back and forth, about 80 degrees, the doors off the Jeep. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. But if I was going to coat that, how long would it have taken me? How long should I
Yeah,
estimate?
we get this. I think you probably feel the same way. Is that the question is a good question, and I understand why people ask it, but we also have to bring experience level into the conversation, right? There's many people that have not done, let's just use a number, 100 coatings in their life. They've never reached 100 coatings installed. Well, what if a guy has installed 500 coatings? He's probably going to be better at installing a coating than a guy that's done 100. And the guy that's done 100 is probably better than the guy that's done,
Yeah,
10, 20, 30.
yeah.
Right? So it's one of these questions that a lot of times when you ask it, experience level is going to make it very hard to answer it honestly. So let me give you an example. I blew Marty's mind. You can say it, Marty. So, guys, I had a big
Could, but
Maybach SUV, a GLS 600, big SUV, a lot of paint, a lot of surface area. I got Sparta on that car in 35 minutes. And that was kind of taking my time.
I mean,
Like
you
I
act like
wasn't,
I was there. I
yeah,
mean, he
you,
did
you
not.
know,
He did not FaceTime
yeah,
me.
yeah,
There was no start and
I,
stop clock. Like,
yeah, yeah. I had a clock on. I had my timer on. Uh, but I always tell people it's like, it was 100 degrees, probably every bit of 95 to 105 degrees in my shop. Yes, I don't have the humidity that some of you others have. We know that could make a difference. But
do we,
I
Nick?
also am more
Do we, Nick?
comfortable laying a coating on than most people. My experience in this point matters, right? There's probably very few people that have been laying coatings that are asking questions for 15 years. You're probably doing it for a much shorter period of time. You have less time working with coatings. Even if you've been putting coatings on for 7 years, that's 50% of the time I have. And I used to have to put coatings on with wet towels and the wet
That was
towel
brutal.
method and multiple
You want to talk
layers.
about time?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you messed up a part of it, you had to sand the whole
What,
door.
if you ever messed up like layer number 3 on a 4-layer system,
Yeah, it's horrible. So again, when you ask these questions, it is a good question in theory, but the problem is nobody knows your level of experience. And so when we put on stack and you and I are sitting there talking in a video on a blue Benz, we don't even think about applying it. We're just kind of like it's muscle memory. So when we put stack on, even if it's solo or with you and I doing it, we're going to do it light years faster than most people just because everything's now second nature of how to stay organized and what areas did I just do and what. So again, we have to understand that everyone's at a different level of just the installation part. And then now everyone's at a different level of the prep part. So if I can install a coating faster than you, I can usually prep a car faster than you. I can use my process is more complete. I know what to do and how to save time and cut time here and what's this car need and what's that car need. And all of that kind of stuff goes into adding or subtracting time.
and that a lot of that time gets added on by, you mentioned something like, well, we can all of us, Sparta, Trey, any, like that water that runs down out of a
Yes.
random crack. How
Yes.
much time does that cost you?
Yeah.
Whereas you go, if I would have.
But in my situation, let me explain. I had the car in the shop for a week, right? So I did a little bit at a time because the customer was already informed that, hey, look, I need the car because I only can do a little bit at a time. So I look around, and by the time I coat the car, there's no water coming out of a crack or out of a mirror. I have no concern at that point. I had polished the car. I had all these kind of things that had come beforehand. And so I don't want anybody to get frustrated by this answer either. I want you to understand that you're looking for help sort of with a good question in theory, but it's not a question somebody can answer for you, right?
So one question, let's ask it a different way then. I think we can answer it this way. And maybe instead of asking how long does it take to coat a car, maybe the question should be what variables are there, and if there's some, I don't want to say tricks, I don't like that word. Tips is probably a better word, tips for reducing time. And I'll start with going, you got to understand your season. You mentioned humidity and heat. Now, it definitely, when it comes to coding, it does differ to your region, to your area. Heat here and heat in Vegas, we joke, it's different. Or it's the same. We're not sure, are we? Well, when it comes to coding, we can definitely know that when there's more humidity, it does take a little bit more to work than it does a place that does not have humidity. Now, even here in Oklahoma, I'll know on a hot day that is more humid than just a hot day, I can know then how the coating is going to perform. And there goes into when you talk about experience and if somebody's done 100 or 500, right? Like how many years they've been doing it. Some people will actually start a catalog where they'll go write down things, or other people just begin to naturally kind of remember, and they might turn their air conditioner on earlier, or they might try and get the humidity out, right? Even though it's still going to be warm, there's ways you could dehumidify the area. This can become specific to your area. Let's go back to that. But definitely heat and moment of time you're doing it does play into how long it's going to take.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, a lot of time is saved in the prep process, right? You really want to cut down time. Understand you're going to cut the most time by having a very efficient prep process.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know if you're efficient, you can set up a phone, watch yourself. I mean, we've shared that tip on here for years. And what you're really looking for there is how many times I'm walking somewhere with nothing to do, walking back towards my shop or part of my shop, walking back towards my van, my detailing rig, walking back to my garage if I'm doing it myself. At the end of the day, you can coat cars really fast if you know what you're doing, from prep to coating application. There's people that are way faster at polishing and one-stepping a car than other people. All of this stuff goes into it, but really trying to find people to help you to cut time down is going to be kind of difficult because nobody's watching you do anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great point.
Again, there's a lot of guys who are washing cars with a foam cannon, and then they go through this really, really, really slow clay process. It's like, guys, refoam the car and have a bucket of soap and go and clay the car rather quickly. It's pretty easy to do. Okay. It's not rocket science, but there's guys that are washing the car, then they're pulling the car away, then they're using Eco One or a detail spray, and they're going through this clay process. It's like, guys, there's ways to pick up time. But for some of us, you pick up time by just being better at things, right? Like you got to get some installations under your belt. I certainly was not efficient in 2010 with a 5-part system. You know what I mean? Like there was no way to be efficient. It was all about just don't mess something up, right? That was the key to those whole systems. Today, I can be efficient without thinking about it, but also I got 15 years of doing it. There's a lot of people that want to become great at stuff, but not put the time in. So if you want to be better at installing coatings, at polishing a car, at prepping cars, do more of them. You'll magically become better. And so sell more, do more, get your family's cars to practice, get your buddies' cars to practice. It doesn't matter. We're trying to skip to the front of to the end of the book. And I'm telling you, the way you pick up time is doing it, doing more, getting more under your belt. You're going to find little things you can do differently, getting a little bit of education through good people. Listen to a podcast or our YouTube channel. You'll see how efficiently we do things. I tell people this all the time. Look at how efficiently, if you go to our YouTube and you watch me wash a car, a Jeep, a Maybach, it doesn't matter. I'm not going back to the bucket 10 times to wash a car. You are. I'm already cutting time. And by the way, my wash process is safer. I'm not reintroducing anything that's already touched a dirty panel. Like, we got to walk through these things and understand this is all minutes. Minutes lead to hours. That's how it kind of works.
So one variable we can all know is the vehicle. Now, the simple one's going to be size. But even in some differences in SUVs, you talked about the was it a Lambo you just recently had that had so many curves and so many different,
Yeah.
curvatures to it versus a panel that would be more straight, a, a, str- a straight panel or something larger that doesn't have all the curves. We don't think about that, but it does take more time to work on those. Now,
Yes.
one variable inside of working on certain vehicles is something that I just got asked last week. You've been asked. It's, hey, is anybody else having issues? And then they'll list a certain type of vehicle. In the past, I've talked openly about GMC Black and some issues that I had on those. I got asked a question last week, similar to a question you've been asked previously on Ford paints. And they
Yep.
were very, having some issues with Ford paints. And when we talked earlier about, do you have a process that's very focused and doesn't have room for variables? Or do you have a process that allows for variables? When you get into the clear coat, hardness to softness to, as
Yeah.
you've talked about, this could be painted in this state, could be painted in that state. You got cars that are put together from different, right?
Yeah.
So
All
there's
kinds
a
of stuff.
lot of variables when it comes to the paint. Do we also get to have variables with, applying a different coating before one coating? Do I do this? How do I apply this? There's some questions, heavy questions around Ford paints and or soft clear coats, how you can save time.
Yeah. So what we've seen out of Ford, which is a very middle of the road clear coat, is it is very susceptible for some reason. And this kind of happened with Tesla Blacks years ago, before they got their process better, is it's very, very sensitive to oily compounds, one steps, and polishes. And
Hmm.
what happens is the oil seems to seep in and kind of lock itself in the clear coat. And if you don't thoroughly prep the paint, you're going to have a problem. And the problem is you're going to get something that's very akin to called ghosting, where you can see the coating, may look darker in this spot than that spot, or you might actually see the beads or the sweating lines that you're like, hey, I wiped it off in time, but it's kind of marked up the paint. It's having a reaction to the leftover oil of that compound polish in one step. It's one of the reasons we harped long before we had a compound polish in one step. I see a lot of misinformations about this heavy oil content. A lot of it is to cheapen the price. A lot of it is to cover up bad chemistry where they won't get dusting the more oil that they have. But the problem is on Ford paints in particular, but this happens across the board sometimes, with different systems, is if you don't do a really thorough paint prep, that oil will be in there. You'll lay the coating. You'll start to see a reaction with the solvent and the active ingredient in the coating. It'll get a ghosting effect. But then everybody goes, there's something going on with the coating. And this is kind of what we're saying with having a malleable process. We all skip over that paint prep process sometimes and just kind of spray some on, make sure I wipe the area. But if you're using an oily one step, you need to take paint prep way more seriously than somebody using something that's not as oily, right? And these things pop up from time to time.
So definitely one variable to help us reduce time. If we're thinking and we're having an issue with the coating and with the type of clear coat and what we're working on, we got to think then not just about the coating, not just about the clear coat, not just about the prep. You mentioned we also now need to be concerned about the abrasive that we're
Yeah.
using, how that now plays into the amount of time it takes to apply a coating, because a variable, an option, something that goes wrong, a problem. Well, those cost me time. So the process, in a sense, needs to have start. I got to think now of abrasive. Wow.
Yeah, and you're not really thinking of abrasive. You're thinking of what else is in that formula, right? How do I, a lot of guys when they use our compounds, polishes, and one step now talk about the wiping off process.
Mm.
And they're like, this is a lot easier to wipe off. Well, I mean, what makes something hard to wipe off? Oil. Oil's hard to just wipe off with a towel, right? Think about if you sprayed an oily tire dressing on a panel, it'd be hard to get that off, right? I mean, that's kind of how this thing works. And we've just taken it as settled science with compounds, polishes, and one steps that, well, the oil keeps the dust down and that's the trade-off I'll make. Well, we're kind of past that now. And but for a lot of companies, that's what they're going to stick with. That's their decision. Some of those products work extremely well, have long open times, they're enjoyable to work with. There is no dust. There is, that's all fine. But it's now you got to fight something else down in the process, right? You got to make sure you're a little more thorough with things. And also, before you go blaming something, you also have to think about, did I thoroughly do this step correctly? Did I thoroughly do that step correctly? Instead of always going and saying something's happening with the product, what could be affecting the product? And by the way, the only reason I knew this was happening is because I went through it. Kind of hard to know how to solve a problem you've never solved yourself, right? And that's one of the things. Again, there's a lot of guys that think because they've been doing it a year, they have tons of experience. Hey man, that's good experience, but that's the tip of the iceberg. You're going to run into all of these things. I mean, like people ask me about GM Black all the time. Guys, I can't remember when I did a GM car last. I mean, it's just not my
Lucky.
customer. Yeah, it's just not my customer base. Like but now we're seeing people use our abrasives on GM Black. They're not complaining at all. Right. So there comes a point in time when,
Come on, you knew I wasn't going to let that happen. Come on.
yeah, I mean, again, I'm not in GM country here. That's not what I work on. But again, I'm also okay to tell people that, hey man, it's not what I work on all the time, but I do work on finicky paints. And there's just things that you learn about finicky paints as you work on more of them. You refine your process. But if you get your first GM Black truck, it's going to feel alien if you've been doing Audis and harder paints and everything's been kind of easy for you to get a finish, and now you go, uh-oh, this is my first time. Okay, well, by your 10th, your 20th, your 30th time, you're going to be better at it. There's a lot of people. That's why it's important to keep refining your process, but also understanding that your process is never going to be one size fits all. The steps may be one size fits all in the way that you do them in the sequence you do them, but you may have to take more care with one of the steps. Or I always tell people, if you're prepping paint and you're trying to use one spray of wipe, on the hood, you're doing it wrong. Douse the hood, man. Use the product. This is the time. You're at the end here, man. Why are we trying to stretch a very affordable product? Drench it down, get it clean, get it back to a naked form, get all the oil and the gunk and the things, the compound and the polish that could be left over just because you missed wiping it. This isn't the time to skimp. And I'm not trying to sell you a bunch of wipe. And it's not some kind of conspiracy. It's just why would you have this problem? You know what I mean? Just use a little bit more of the product.
Okay, so use a little bit more of the product to alleviate an issue. One issue that a lot of people have on some vehicles is actually that they're not using enough coating,
Oh
right? I
yeah.
mean, I asked you the question, right? 50 ml bottle of Sparta. What are you traditionally going to lay down? And of course, we're going to go, it's size dependence on the vehicle. We get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we get it. But we're thinking like mid-size SUV, something like that. I'm putting 30 at least, if not
Yeah,
to 40.
30 to
You
40.
get to a larger SUV, I'm putting that whole bottle on, no problem at all.
Yeah. No, I told you, I think part of my process of why I can go a little quicker is, hey man, when I'm ready to apply coating onto that applicator, I'm applying it. I
Hmm.
mean,
I
I'm
take
not
the dropper out and I just go put it straight on, right? Like I ain't
I mean,
wasting the time just watching it drop.
yeah, I mean, it's speeding yourself up by eliminating a variable that could come. If it's hotter outside, guys, and I don't care whose coating you're using, the more coating you put on, the easier it gives you more time to work and kind of maneuver in the area. You're not rushing to grab a towel or having to go to such a small area that you feel like it's going to take you longer. And so you have to be very upfront with yourself on your process. There's very few. I mean, there's a bunch of, we do a lot of Ferraris and two-door sports cars. Yeah, man, I'm probably using 20 to 25, something like that. Maybe on a smaller one, you can even, use sub 20 because there's just not that much surface area. But the mid-sized SUV and above, which is the most popular things being sold, you should never dip below 25, and you should be approaching 30 to 35 to 40 on some of these vehicles all day. Because again, think if you have real roof, just the roof by itself. I mean, if you look at this Maybach that just left here, the size of the hood and the amount of the roof I had to coat, there's no way of getting under 30 and doing it properly. It's just too much real estate.
But there's some people are listening. I guarantee you, some people listening doing that. Oh my word! Oh, I can't believe. Like what? Like
Yeah, but they
never
also,
imagine
I'm
putting that
guessing
much down.
you're having trouble speeding your process up. So you're trading an extra 5 mils in the bottle to slow you down an extra 30 minutes because you're having to worry and stress about the coating. If there's enough on the surface, I don't care your level of humidity. I've gone to Tulsa and coated cars. I coated cars in the Midwest in the summer. At the end of the day, I'm here to tell you something, man. I coated cars really close to the ocean in Southern California. That's a lot of humidity from just the actual ocean being right there. You know what I mean? The more coating you put on a car, and nobody's telling you to waste it or have it dripping off the panel, but laying it on thinly, number one, you're going to have a bonding issue. And I know people are trying to tell you you won't, you always will. And the second thing is the more active ingredient, the longer a coating is going to last. And also, it makes my life easier during the installation process. Do I want to save an extra 5 mils in the bottle? It's not really worth it to me.
What about 10?
It's not worth it to me. None of it's worth. I would like my installation to go more smoothly. I would sacrifice product all day long to make my life easier during the installation process.
And I was always the guy that just wanted to cover my backside. Wanted to
Yes.
make sure that if I put down 3 years, it was going to last 3 years.
Yeah,
If I
Mildred has the best thing about this. He feels married to his customer's car for the years the coating is on the car. And if you don't really think of it that way, I think you're probably missing the point. You should feel married to the car and having the car do a good thing, having the coating last. And again, the more active ingredient on a surface, that means the more that's going to get left behind. That means more good stuff on the paint. It doesn't matter whose system you use. It's just logic at that point.
well,
Okay. So because you're putting stuff on a porous surface, clear coat and paint systems are porous. So the more stuff that I put in the pores of the paint, in the pores of the gel coat, in the pores of the paint system on the RV, the better it's going to last. It's not rocket science.
okay. So I got to ask this question because, and this will be the final question, but it's going to be basically, well, how do I know what to do? It's basically the question. Okay. So let's back into that with, let's go with, hey, I've got glass cleaner and it's hot out and my glass cleaner maybe it's evaporating too quickly. Is it
Yes.
okay to put water in there? Yeah,
Yeah.
the answer
So
is
so
yes.
so so here's the deal.
Hold on,
Before I
no, hold
put
on.
in, yeah,
I've got a couple of things I want to throw out a situation for. How do I know what to do? Right, you've got variables that we already talked about. Right, you got some people that will send us a message and they'll go, "Hey, I read, I watched, I put this in. My process was like this, and I don't understand Why did it not work?
Yep.
Right? Then you've got this random time where we've got matte black wheels, and you have this out of the box tip on something to use that's different than we probably would have ever thought of. And you go, how do I know? What do I do when it's not like, okay, something isn't working the way the label says, or maybe what it used to do a month ago when the temperature was different? How do I know when it's time to change something,
Yeah.
to
I
add?
mean,
What do I
yeah.
do?
So let's talk about the glass cleaner thing. If you're working on really hot glass cleaner or glass, excuse me, you're outside, the sun's been beating on it. Let me give you the process. Take a towel, dip it into some DI water, distilled water, whatever you have that, for your clean water source. Wring the towel completely out so it's just damp. Okay, it's just damp. Spray the glass cleaner on, wipe with a damp towel, come back with a dry towel, you're done. Okay, because what you're dealing with is you're just dealing with hot glass, and the water on the towel is going to help cool it off while you wipe in the glass cleaner, and then you can wipe it off. Okay, it's a very simple process. You don't have to add anything to the formula. Okay, you just need to cool the glass down. The glass is so hot that it's literally scorching the product. Okay, there's too many people that are standing out in the sun and they don't understand that scorching hot anything becomes problematic. Okay, so you're just trying to cool the area down a little bit that allows you the time to wipe and buff it off. That's it. Yeah, my secret on matte black wheels is to use trim cleaner as a little finisher on the wheel. Right, get it clean. You're at the end of the detail. You're like, hey, this black wheel could look a little better. It's we've all seen it. From Toyota to Mercedes to Audi to everybody. Just take a little trim cleaner, our trim cleaner, put it on the wheel. You can spray it. Don't spray it on a hot wheel. Again, we're back. Just put it on the rag if it's super hot. But if it's in a cool area, you can spray the wheel down and you can spray your towel down and just start wiping it in. You're going to find it leaves it really, really, really clean look, even on the most messed up black wheel. It's a nice little finishing touch for something that's looking a little bit worn.
But we don't say that on the label, and that's an out
Yeah,
of the
100%.
box thing. How does somebody ever get to that? How do they get to that level of
Well,
going,
I
how
will
do I
say this:
try
we
and do
have it on
this?
our YouTube channel. We push everybody to our YouTube channel so you guys can see these types of things, and I'd hope everybody uses it to their advantage. But we know that they don't. There's some of this stuff that's you can take the easy road and watch the content and absorb it. And there's this hard road where you're trying to learn everything the hard way yourself. And nobody can tell you which way to go. I can't tell you which way to go, but I would watch the YouTube channel because I share on this recent Jeep video that's something that I did, on these black wheels that needed a little bit of love. And you can see the finish of them and you can go, oh, that looks pretty good. It looks really nice. And it's a nice finishing touch when those wheels are not looking exactly how they should because they've been neglected. Let's talk about matte wheels. It's one of those things you cannot neglect them for any period of time or you're going to permanently have a problem, right? So you don't have to learn everything the hard way, but you do have to be focused and go watch the videos. You and then learn and then take it into your process and do it. But yeah, not everything can be put on a label. The label would have to be 40 pages long to put something on a label. It's not viable to do that.
And so basically, we can all just rest assured, like, hey, if I get into a situation, I can go watch YouTube videos. B, go into the specialist group. A lot of people there are happy to help out if you're having an issue. Now, you do need to be professional with your question. Not just throw out hey, this, blah, 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 right? Like, have some thought to your question, put it out there. See, it's okay to try some variables, right? It's
And
okay
make
to
sure
mix in a
and by the way,
towel
make sure you
before.
put the variables in the question. There's a lot of people that say, I'm having this issue. Help me. Well,
Yeah.
what's the variable? Are you outside? Are you in a shop? Is the sun beating down on it when you had the issue? These are all things that get you real help, not what the hell happened here.
what this product do? Why this
Yeah.
product? Must maybe something I did. I don't know. You
Yeah.
know,
So put the variables
maybe it
in
was
there.
me. I don't
Hey, it
know.
was 105 degrees. I was in direct sunlight. I had this issue. This is how I used it. Okay, man. People can help you then. You guys all are in other detailing groups and you watch these very generic questions. And if you're being upfront with yourself, watching the answers, you go, that's not an answer. Nobody, because if you don't know this, this, and this, there's no way to give the guy an answer. So the guy's gone in there, wasted his time posting a half-assed question with no variables that he was dealing with, and now he's going to get a bunch of bad answers. And how'd that help him? Didn't help him. He's now just confused with 50 different bad responses, right? I mean, it's like saying, how long should it take me to code a car? Guys, how experienced are you? Where are you coding cars? How many have you coded? How what was your last efficiency? You know, how long did the last 5 take you? Are you picking up time? Or what part of your process are you confused by, or you think's holding you back? You got to lead people to give you real advice. I know it's not easy because you just want to go ask a simple question, but if you're trying to get help, you better really lay out what you were dealing with, why you were dealing with it, what was the temperature, what was this, what was that. I was in direct sunlight. I mean, this is always happens on the inside of windshields. Go out on a 100-degree day, let the sun beat down on the windshield, and the last part of your process, go and try to do what? Clean the inside of that windshield. You're going to get a lot of crazy things that you wouldn't get if it sat in the shade. Right? I mean, that's just the way it is. So you just got to help yourself by really listing out what's going on.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this WWND episode, and we'll see you inside the specialist group where you can ask Nick what he would do.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.